This episode is made possible by the Thrive Center, promoting healthy aging with technological innovations and education, solving challenges and scaling solutions. What's next? Living longer, better, smarter. We're glad you're here with us. In this edition, Senior Safety Through Innovation. I'm Fred Fishkin, along with Mary Furlong. Hi, Mary.
Hi, Fred. Great to be here.
And we have some interesting guests and innovations to talk about. First, from Aya Places, co-founder John Denholtz, who is also CEO. Hi, John.
Good morning, Fred. Good morning, Mary. Thanks for having us.
And co-founder, COO, and certified senior home safety specialist, Robert Stang. Hi, Robert.
Hey, good morning, Fred and Mary. Thanks for having us on the show.
Well, we're going to start from the very beginning. For people who haven't heard of you yet, John, what is Aya Places all about?
Well, Aya Places is all about fall prevention, and it's all about helping older adults remain in their homes, living more safely and more ably and more joyfully for as long as possible. And to that end, we offer several things. First, our home safety assessments. These are virtual walkthroughs of a home where we identify tripping hazards and other safety risks. The second part of our business is product sales. We sell products and solutions that address concerns found through our home safety assessments. And this is a highly curated catalog of products that not only do the job and are ADA compliant, but that actually look good, are products that we'd like to see in our own homes. And the third component of our business is actually getting the job done. You might know where the hazards are, you might know what products you need, but actually getting them installed is often a pain point for folks. So we have a concierge service where we actually help vet and assign service providers to various homes, be they grab bar installers or electricians or plumbers or what have you.
How did this come about? What's the story behind the company?
Sure. Well, most of my career has actually been in education and technology. I've been building products and services for students and teachers for most of the last 3 decades. But I pivoted to the longevity space after a personal experience, like many entrepreneurs in this space that I'm finding. My dad, an 85-year-old retired guy, passionate and talented sculptor, who had resisted for years to get grab bars in the bathroom and to get dual handrails on the stairwells and to improve the lighting in the home. He resisted for years, and one night he woke up, this is just a couple of years ago, to go to the bathroom, middle of the night, and he tripped over an electrical cord, a charger, next to his bed, and he hit his head on a dresser, and he actually suffered a severe spinal cord injury and effectively became a quadriplegic. And it profoundly impacted, obviously, his life, but the lives of everybody around him. So as a son and as a caregiver, I found the whole experience of navigating the world of products and services for aging in place. This was before the accident as well as after the accident, incredibly challenging and frustrating and painful. And then as an entrepreneur, somebody who's always thinking about products and new services and opportunities, and I just realized that there was really an opportunity here to help a lot of people. And the more Robert and I have learned about the opportunity to help people, the fact that 1 out of 3 adults over the age of 65 fall every year, and that there are nearly 1 million hospitalizations due to falls every year, and that hundreds of thousands of people lose their independence every year because of tripping hazards and very preventable home modifications that could be made. We realized that there was an enormous opportunity. So that's what we've been working on for the past, better part of the past year.
And of course, we discovered you during our business plan competition. And what I think is interesting is that you have a baby and you have 9 months to prepare. Sometimes when someone falls, it happens right then. And then what? It's after the fact. What I like about what you're doing is it's preventative. And so you think about baby proofing your house, but you don't think about, and it's largely because the products haven't been very aesthetic, but you've managed to discover products that are functional and aesthetic, correct?
Yeah, that's one of the inspirations behind this entire effort. We're conducting beta tests around our home safety assessments, and the number one thing that we hear from people we're providing these assessments to is, I don't want to turn my home into a nursing facility. I don't want to turn my home into a hospital supply company. I don't want to feel like I'm in an old person's home. And the amazing thing about it is that, you don't have to buy the institutional looking chrome grab bar. There are beautifully designed grab bars out there. They're hard to find. And that's where part of the opportunity is. As a curator of these products, you can't get them at the big box stores at Home Depot and Lowe's, but they're out there. And so there's definitely a huge opportunity to address that pain point for consumers. And this cuts across lots of different product categories.
So for the seniors in the audience, tell us, how is it done? And then how much does it cost? After the safety check, then what?
Robert, you want to take this, or you want me to?
Yeah, well, the three parts of the relationship, what we find to be the most important way to start the relationship is to do the safety evaluation. Oftentimes the customer might believe, oh, I have a problem in the bathroom or the stairs, and they start looking for products. But we like to begin with the virtual home safety consultation. That's $369 for the full entire house. But if somebody just wants to get a sense of it or to address a particular area, it's a $99 cost. We then videotape that area or take photos of it or a combination of it thereof, and then produce a report. The second part of the relationship then moves into the e-commerce or the products, and the price range of those products varies. But what we found is, not just from our own experience, but from others, that for $1,200 to $1,500, people can make tremendous progress in their home by installing products in that price range to improve the safety. And then the third part is, again, this is all optional. The customer can take all three pieces or one. But then we find now, if they want to move into a concierge project management relationship, that's something where we charge the customer to take this completely out of their hands, because we find often that people don't have the time or the experience to take this on. And so if they'd like us to do that as a partner to them, they engage our Project Pro relationship.
Tell me how this is done virtually, Robert. Do you have a caregiver or somebody in the household who goes around with a phone, or how do you do it?
Yeah, it's very interesting. The current state of the industry is that a person who wants an assessment of their home has to find a professional. And that professional comes into the house with a clipboard and fills out a report and then hands the customer a piece of paper, and then it's on them to figure out the solution. So the virtual part that we do is we start the relationship with someone who could be in rural Idaho or Oklahoma. It doesn't matter. They may not have access to a professional who could visit the house, or during COVID, they don't want someone to visit the house. So the virtual part is using well-established technologies like Zoom or Google Meet or any of these technologies that allows us to go into the person's home virtually. Collecting that data over video then and photos allows us to go away and really go through the 200-point plus safety thing and turn around and give them a report. So we're using technologies that are very well established, that COVID has really pushed forward. A lot of us have had conversations with our parents and grandparents over Zoom and Google Meet, and prior to COVID, they'd never used it before. So we're having some trends that are very helpful to us.
So you direct them where to go, what to look at because of your experience?
Right. We walk them through the house. So we get a sense of how big the house is, what the rooms are. And we literally take the video with them while they're going through the house. For some people, they can also submit photos to us. So if they don't want to do a live video, or they don't have the bandwidth in their homes, what we often find is internet penetration in someone's basement is 0. And so we might do the video walking through your house, Fred, and then you say, let's go to the basement. We don't have connection down there. And we say, no problem. You're going to submit photos of that room to us. And that allows us to evaluate it that way as well.
Some of the categories are really interesting, like lighting. I know a lot of older adults do craft work or crossword puzzles. So that must be one of the areas you look at. What are some of the other areas?
Yeah, I mean, it cuts across all parts of the home. We look at all the surfaces, all the walking surfaces. Are they non-slip? Are they even? Are there thresholds between rooms that we need to be aware of? And as you say, we look at very closely at lighting. Is there task lighting in the kitchen? Are corners of is there lighting in the closets? Places where people can stumble, where people where accidents often happen. We then look at home organization and clutter. That's an issue with a lot of homes. So a lot of the folks that we're starting to steer towards people are like home reorganizers and declutterers, people who specialize in that space. We also look at the furniture. Is furniture easy to get in and out of? Do the dining room chairs have arms and armrests that you can use to get in and out of a chair? So there's a whole range of products. And then, of course, there's kind of universal design elements that apply across all ages. So like doorknobs, levers instead of doorknobs, for example. There are opportunities to make it easier to navigate through the home. And any opportunity to make it easier to navigate and navigate will minimize the chance of falling.
Yeah, and Mary, one thing that's helpful too is we're redefining terminology in this industry. Do you know why they call them throw rugs? Because they should be thrown right out the window.
Right.
We shouldn't have throw rugs in the home that are, thick pile, not secured to the ground. They may have been attractive or aesthetic a while back, but they're big tripping hazards. So when we go into the home, we talk to people about these things. And if they're adamant that they want to keep them, we have to secure them really well to the ground, or we simply say these things should be removed because they're dangerous.
And I might add, there's a ton of opportunity for automation with some of the new interfaces, the voice activated interfaces, the smart speakers, and the sensor-based light switches. And there's just so much opportunity to automate the home so you're minimizing the chance, for example, to open and close blinds. You can do it by voice now. So you don't have to climb behind a couch and pull a cord and risk a fall or some sort of accident.
Tell us about the products that your partners provide here. How do you go out and find them? Give us some for instances here.
Well, how we go out and we talk to everybody, first of all. I mean, we have a huge database of products that we love that we're keeping. It's like an ongoing database. We haven't built relationships with everybody, but we're just kind of identifying those products that do the job, that are differentiated, that look beautiful, that are things that we would want in our own homes, or we know that our friends and our family would want in their own homes. And so that cuts across lots of different categories. And the way we find those products is, I'm dragging my wife into every furniture appliance store and, every retail store that's related that I can find. I'm on this, Robert and I are surfing the net and looking at Amazon, and we're looking at other sites that sell products for older adults, and that can help facilitate successful aging in place. So we're constantly looking. We're reading magazines from Real Simple to Architectural Digest to the AARP magazine. So we're kind of all over the place and just collecting and curating.
Jumping in here too, one of the trends that we're hearing and seeing is that search is so overwhelming. And when you decide that you want to go out and get a new printer for your home, for example, and you type that into Amazon or Google or Best Buy even, you get 7,000 returned products and you don't know where to start, and it's overwhelming. And that's why services like Wirecutter from the New York Times are so popular, because you just decide to go there and buy the printer that they've told you to buy. Similarly with us, we want to do this work for the customer and sift through the universe of overwhelming choices and say, these are a handful of products that we believe in, have tested, have relationships with. And that makes the customer feel a lot better because somebody else has done that work for them.
Yeah. And in terms, Fred, in terms of answering your questions, to date, we've started with suppliers in the bathroom space because that's such a high priority. And so we have relationships with several different vendors or suppliers at this point, like Ponte Giulio and Healthcraft, that also makes the Invisio line that many people might be familiar with. And a company called Promenade that makes beautifully handcrafted handrails that don't look institutional. But we're kind of starting there, but the future is wide open. There's so many vendors out there that can't get into distribution relationships with Home Depot that make beautiful products that they might be a little bit higher end. Ponte Giulio, for example, makes, it's an Italian-based company. They've got, they're very design forward, and they make several different lines of grab bars that, they look like they belong in the Museum of Modern Art. And it's not really hyperbole. It's really beautiful stuff.
What I think is exciting is that you bring it all together in one place. So if I want to go to Pottery Barn Kids, I can find a lot of things for the young children in my life. And yet I haven't seen anyone bring it all together for older people in an aesthetic way. And we know they will change brands. So I think 1 in 3 have new partners. So they changing that brand, they're going to change other brands. I want to just chat for a minute about your background, because one of the things I've seen, Fred, is there's a lot of talent coming into the longevity market. So just talk a little bit about what you all did before. I think they would be surprised to know a little bit about what your prior entrepreneurial activities were before you got into the longevity market.
Well, maybe I'll grab this one first, John. And we both have it's like a penguin diving into the ocean. We have lots of turns and pivots and shifts. I started at age 12 as an entrepreneur. I grew up in Queens, New York, and I was kind of fascinated by observing other businesses and saying, oh, I could do that. So, for example, I was in the chocolate business. And in 7th grade, I had a friend who come to work with a shoebox full of chocolates. And he was sold out by 10:30. People came and grabbed him. He had these beautiful little lollipop sticks and bags. And I said, hey, Michael, wow, this is amazing. You're making like $10 or $12 a day. And he says, I get nothing from this. I said, what? Because my aunt and my mother make all this and I sell it and I get 0. And I said, wow. So this was a lesson in treating your employees well. And he said, I'll show you how to get into this business. I said, wow, yes. So he took me to the store. I bought molds. I bought chocolates. And from there, I started carrying a shoebox to school every day and selling $8 or $9 worth of goods. My mom and I would make these together at night. And so now I didn't treat my employer or my mother very well either, because she didn't get any profits out of this, but I think she enjoyed the time with me in the kitchen. So as a kid, I had a lot of businesses, and that really ignited the passion for me. In the first .com boom in 1998, I had graduated Yale Business School and had received 4 lucrative job offers to work in any city, well, any major city in the world that I had wanted to. And I did the most responsible thing, which was say no to all of them, have 0 game plan. And I drove to California with a classmate of mine. My father, who's a German immigrant, could not console himself over this decision to throw away all these job offers. And I had no game plan, but I did get involved in several different businesses in that first dot-com boom from 1998 to 2001. That was a real fascinating period. Nobody thought their business models would fail. And so we spend, hours chatting about garden.com and how the entire world must be a $10 trillion market for gardening tools. And all you have to do is set up a website. So there was a lot of hubris and a lot of lessons learned through that first process. I had started a job posting company with several other people, and I thought it was a really good concept. I still do, but I also learned that there are other variables involved in being successful. So my entrepreneurial journey continued also in another tech company. I co-founded a drone company in 2014 that's still going. The drone industry is really still early, still ahead of its curve, but that was another great experience. And then there's other businesses that I'm just super passionate about, like coffee. I own a coffee bar in San Francisco. Mary, I think you're one of my customers. I think you are. I've recognized you.
Yes, and there are many business plans written at coffee shops in San Francisco. So I wanted just to hear a little bit about that, Fred, because I think what's exciting about this marketplace is the talent that's coming into the market and those experiences, is it's all so new. And of course, that talent applied to senior safety at home is a really important thing.
And we can't let you go, John, without telling us about the name Aya Places. Where does that come from?
That's a great question. It's a little bit of a long story, but I'll try to keep it short. I actually didn't start with the name. I actually started with looking for a logo or an image that would reflect kind of the spirit of the type of company I was hoping we could build. Something that was more life-affirming, less about sterility and growing older and frailer, and more about thrivability. And so I kind of settled on a fern or a plant, something that I'm a big fern lover. I've got tons of them in my backyard. To me, they're everything about life and vitality and growth So I started to do some research online, and during my research, I stumbled upon different images of ferns. And one of the images that I stumbled upon was a West African decorative motif called Aya. And it was Aya means fern in this West African language, and it symbolizes endurance and resourcefulness. And to me, that just kind of like hit me, and it resonated. I liked the symbol of the fern that I found, and I liked the name because I just thought it was pretty. It rolled off the tongue. It could be combined with other words very quickly. Aya places, Aya home, Aya health, Aya comfort, Aya joy. It just seems to have so much potential and so much flexibility, and it just has kind of felt right. That said, we're open. We love it, and we're going to stick with it until something better comes along.
Well, we like it.
Okay.
John Denholtz and Robert Stang, thank you so much for spending time with us. The website again is Aya Places, ayaplaces.com.
Thanks, Fred and Mary.
Thank you so much for having us, guys.
Mary, our next guests are from iGuard Home Solutions. Ken Deering is CEO and John Landers is Chief Marketing Officer. Thanks for being with us, Ken and John.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. It's great to be here.
Tell us about the company and the problems you help to solve. Ken, I'll turn to you first.
Yeah, it's the core of what we do is we really allow seniors, seniors who want to age in place safely for them and their adult children to be comfortable. That's a good thing to continue doing. And I can speak it as a customer. So we prevent cooking fires caused by forgotten cooking is the core of what we do. what makes us very effective and trusted is we actually turn off the power. So whether it's electricity or gas, we shut it off. So we're not trying to send a text message or anything like that that's superfluous and wouldn't be picked up in time. We intervene and turn it off and prevent the possibility of a cooking fire. And we've done this over 400,000 times that we've had auto shut off events have occurred for our customers. And many times they come back in very quickly after the 5-minute default time, and there wasn't a possibility, but that's what we're there to do, is prevent it. So as I said, I was a customer first. My mom developed some short-term memory, we thought, from a surgery. The doctor said it could actually be there before that. And since mom was adamant to remain in her home, she was happy to visit family and friends, was her comment, in senior living. But no, if anything came along, because my dad had passed away, she wasn't her own, which heightened our awareness of what was going on in her home, that we were to do something. So turned out with short-term memory, my sister, I'm the youngest, asked me to research it, and was just scary. We had no idea that, cooking fires and fires for seniors, you're 2.5 times likely to be injured or death from it. Plus the scare factor is just not a good thing to occur, someone in their 70s or older. So, and also that the new smoke detectors we'd put in the year before as part of updating your home, that was all reactive and was not going to do what we needed, which was prevent a possibility of a cooking fire. So found the product, put it in. Mom had 2 extra years she was able to stay in her home. And on our side, as the adult children, it was non-invasive, no cameras or anything. We weren't prepared to do anything like that in her home anyway, but that's one of the reasons we picked the product, was that. And we could find out if there were cooking events that were going to auto shutoffs. Also, a couple of things just quickly. It was during the time we had the product, which is a couple of years ago now, Bill implemented ways that we could find out if mom was up in the morning. And so it's great, because all of a sudden, beyond the cooking prevention, my sister, who lived relatively close to my mom, she could get a text alert saying, good morning activity is what we call it. So knew mom was up, didn't have to call and check in on mom. She knew mom was active. And also you can set a timer, so an alarm on it. So in my mom's case, at 9:30 was well an hour and a half after normal time, my sister would get a text saying no activity detected. 2 times it happened in those 2 years they talked about. Both times mom wasn't feeling good. And so my sister called, found out mom wasn't feeling good, made an appointment for the doctor. Turned out both cases, it was just a touch of a flu or something. But, without having to phone her and check in on her, my sister found it hugely beneficial to know she's up, great, don't pay attention. Phone at evening like I normally do, or in those 2 cases, mom actually had gotten a cough and hadn't felt good enough to get up. So I'll just circle back now. I said why I was a customer so happy with it. I joined Bill Ferguson on this, and Bill, the founder, did it, created the products because he had 2 relatives. One, his mom, and another aunt, both had memory issues, one from age and one from chemotherapy. So he developed the product because nothing was available. And it was so beneficial to family. Then some friends wanted it, that finally he decided that he wanted to serve millions of people, both the seniors, but also the adult children in this fashion. And that's the mission Bill and I have been on together. And John joined us last fall to help us out on this. So that's the crux of it. Lastly, if I could, I'm sorry, going on a bit here. We look for motion. So we're very good at what we do because we simply look for, is there activity in the kitchen? And if there's no activity in the kitchen from the motion sensor, then we start a countdown timer. And if the full 5 minutes elapses before there's activity, we do an audible saying, please come back. And if that doesn't get them back in the kitchen, we simply turn off the power. And that prevents any possibility of a cooking pot fire.
John, maybe you want to give us a little bit of a description of what this looks like, what it consists of.
Sure. Well, there's units for both electric stoves, also for gas stoves, and for electric cooktops. I'll start with the electric one. It has really 3 parts to it. It has the control unit, which you mount to one side of the stove up under a counter, under one of the cabinets. And that is where the patented proximity sensor resides that follows motion. And it's about basically a 120-degree cone So it's not just, you don't have to just stand in front of the stove. It's if you're in the kitchen, it's picking up your movement and activity and just monitoring that activity. It's if you get outside of that, which is leaving the kitchen, is when it starts to pick up. Now, the other portion that connects via a cable to a unit that goes down and plugs into the outlet of your stove, and then you plug into that. So it intercepts and intercedes if there's a accidental, unattended cooking event. And so it just plugs in, very easy. One thing I want to tell you, though, that we talked about, we've made it so it only shuts off one pole of the power. So it shuts off the stove, but it does not do that very annoying thing that I get yelled at home, or I get asked to fix, which is turning off your stove clock. So Bill was really brilliant in being able to come up with a way that could make sure that you're kept safe, but doesn't become an annoyance. Because the whole goal, as Ken has pointed out numerous times, is, as he said with his mom, she never really had to interact with it. It just was always there, watching out, protecting her, interceding if necessary, but otherwise not being an annoyance for the person. The other thing, one last thing I'll say about in general, is that we feel really good because it can all be done with proximity sensors versus using cameras. And I think all of us around here, I know I'm falling into that age. I don't want to be spied on. I don't mind being monitored in a way that is going to help me without it being invasive or offend my dignity. So it really is pretty incredible that we're able to do what we do without the use of cameras or sort of having to put any device actually on a senior to track them. So from that standpoint, I think we have something that really is a very special solution. The gas stove model, same thing, has the exact same unit which you control, and that's where you can set or override time for, if, let's say you want to do a slow cook of chili, and you want to put that, or have a Dutch oven that you put for making soup or stock. Well, that's going to take more than 5 minutes, and you don't necessarily want to just sit by the stove to wait for that chili to simmer and reduce itself. So you can do a one-time override, which sets the time for that event. And the minute that that is completed, it defaults back to its original source and begins watching you again. So again, the goal is not to be draconian or really making life difficult, because we know how much people enjoy cooking, especially with, it's interesting how there was a study done about how much baby boomers and the silent generation, or the greatest generation, really love to cook. And so we really feel that being able to allow people to continue to age in place and do what they love becomes important. So again, flipping back to the gas model, then there's a Honeywell gas monitor instead of the plug-in, and your gas connects to that. And again, all the cable connection's the same, which is to just make sure that it's reading everything. And what it does, it just monitors, and if it senses that you've left the kitchen, it shuts off the gas right at the source, which is there. And we do strongly recommend that you hire a professional plumber to come and connect that. The other feature of the gas one is that it has a unburnt gas sensor, which becomes very useful for folks because it'll shut off the stove if it senses there's too much gas in the kitchen. And sometimes you can have something, we've seen events where somebody turns on the stove, it doesn't ignite, they leave the kitchen, and that gas is filling up. So God forbid somebody lights something in the kitchen. Again, this will intercede the same way that the electric does, but it'll shut the stove off so that there's no, or it'll shut the gas off so that there's not excess gas, unburned gas in the kitchen. So that's—
So John,
yes.
you kind of answered the question I had, which was how easy is it to install? So you really do recommend a plumber to come in and help?
For the gas model, yes, just because you don't want to mess up connecting gas. I mean, for any appliance, whether you do the stove. It really makes sense for the gas model, just to make sure all the connections are tight so that there's no leak. Otherwise, the iGuard stove is going to notice that leak and keep shutting off your stove. So having a professional installation just makes sense. For the other one, 99% of the time, it's just a family member comes, pulls the stove out away, and you can dust behind there while you've got the stove out, and then plug in our unit there, connect the Ethernet cable that goes up to the control unit, and then plug the stove back in, and then push it back, and you're ready to go.
Now, this is an investment for families and seniors, and also for senior living, I would imagine.
Yes.
So I can see the senior at home falling asleep in the chair, and then the family member being worried. I can also see that happening in senior housing. Mm-hmm. So have you gotten traction in senior housing? And what is the value proposition for the caregiver? Peace of mind?
It really is peace of mind. It also, though, is a way that you can, without having to have somebody move in, Carolyn can probably speak to this, it allows a senior to maintain their independence, but you still are watching over them for one of the events that becomes dangerous, which is, again, unattended cooking, which is the major source of kitchen fires and one of the major sources of home fires in general in the United States. So you're taking that off the table. It also allows you to know, Ken touched on that earlier, it lets you know that they're up. It also, though, because it documents any use of the stove or activity in the kitchen, it allows you to get a monthly calendar of usage and just activity. So if you see a change, like the stove going on a number of times at 2 a.m, and then your parent is telling you that they're exhausted, and you're going, well, what were you doing at 2 a.m? Were you making a pot of tea? You shouldn't drink tea at that time. And they go, I wasn't up. It becomes sort of a bellwether, if you will, to see changes in behavior that you can address instead of it being after the fact. So it really does allow you to get metrics on how well somebody is living and just their activity. You can also see if they're not using the stove at all, then that's a reason for concern, unless they're, just getting things out of the refrigerator. But if they were actively cooking for themselves and suddenly that just stops, there's another red flag, or at least something for you to address without having to be right there. So it really does become a way to just watch over activity, again, without the use of cameras or without having to be 100% physically there.
John, you got a really nice endorsement with this from the New York Times. Their wire cutter had a headline, the best smart home devices to help seniors age in place. One of the picks was iGuard stove. But yeah, even better than that, joining us is someone with firsthand experience in using iGuard stove, Carolyn Watts from Boise, Idaho. Thank you, Carolyn, for being here.
Hi, Fred. It's nice to be here.
Well, you've made use of iGuard stove as a caregiver for your mom?
Yes. Oh my gosh, we love it. So my mom is 86, and starting in her early 80s, she lived by herself at the time. We started having problems with kitchen fires. She would put something on the stove and either fall asleep in her chair in the living room or go to her quilting room and totally forget about it. And I mean, we had several very frightening kitchen fires. The scorched wallpaper, the ash on the ceiling totally ruined pots and pans and whatever was in it, and smoke alarms going off. So, we even had a problem when she had fallen asleep and I came over and smoke was pouring out of the kitchen window. The fire alarm was going off. I ran into the house and she was sound asleep in front of the television with her headphones on, and the dogs were out in the backyard. They knew to abandon ship, but it was very, very scary. And, my sister subsequently moved in with her, and we thought that would solve the problem, but we discovered we couldn't go anywhere because my mom is very stubbornly independent and she loves to cook. And so we would go off on a bicycle ride and come home and find that there had been a fire in the kitchen. So even having somebody else live with her was not solving the situation. So we got this iGuard. I started researching it on the internet. And when I found it on the internet, I thought it was a scam. I mean, it was too good to be true. It checked off everything we were looking for and more. And we thought, this can't be real. You know, it's got to be somebody's put this up there. And I called and talked to Bill Ferguson, and he convinced me it was a real product. But oh my gosh, it has absolutely been truly a lifesaver. We have not had a single kitchen fire in 2 years. And before, we were running a kitchen fire a week. Even with my sister living there, we couldn't go anywhere.
And you're getting alerts. You're getting alerts all the time on your smartphone, or I wouldn't say all the time, but alerts telling you what your mom is up to. And yes, even you were telling me, even if it's too hot in the house, you get an alert for that?
So it has and I was unaware of this until Bill sent out this email during the most recent heat wave. And he said, oh, look, you can go on the website and see what the temperature is, not necessarily in the whole kitchen, but right under the counter where the iGuard is. And my sister and I immediately glommed onto that. We're like, oh my gosh, this is so cool, because the AC unit in that house is from 1976. And so we're always worried it's going to go out sometime when we're out of town on a bike ride, and mom isn't going to notice really that the AC is out. And so between that and the activity monitor, I mean, basically, I really think all she needs is this and her emergency fall button, and we're good to go. I mean, it's such a lifesaver. This needs to be in everybody's house.
And you and your sister were able to install this on your own? You didn't have somebody else come in?
Yep. So both my mom and my sister are terrified of the internet. So I hooked up the phone. I did the phone apps, set it up on the computer and our iPads and our telephones. And my sister plugged it into the wall and hooked the unit under the cupboard. And we were good to go in a half an hour.
Well, as Mary mentioned before, this is an investment for a family. John or Ken, you want to give us an idea about the pricing?
Sure, Ken.
Yeah, it's right now at Amazon and Best Buy, it's $4.99. Free shipping is typical on it. And if I step back to being the customer, which I was first, I mean, again, what we learned was, and it's become clear since I've been involved in the company the last couple of years, I mean, a major determining factor for the adult children to have the conversation you don't want to have with the parent is it still safe to stay independent? And, the two factors are the same as Carolyn. Like, we have this mirror image of our mom's as avatar for the archetype customer. In my mom's case, she had a Philips Lifeline pendant, and she had the product iGuard stove, and that allowed the 2 years. And, frankly, that's what she asked us to do. But, we would have had that ugly conversation if it didn't work that way to keep her safe. And this way we wouldn't have to. So to answer the question, it is $500. One of the key things is, in my mom's case, she never had to move out of her home.
I want to thank Caroline for sharing her story and for being such a great caregiver. It's not an easy task to be a caregiver, and caregivers really need those bike rides. They need that time to get out and exercise, and they need peace of mind while they're gone. So lots of innovation here, Fred. And we know from AARP and others, people do want to age in place at home, 90%, yet there's this rise in the growth of dementia among the older adult population. And also, you can get a little sleepy at night watching TV. This is not unusual. So these are great. Yeah, this is great innovation to help us age in place safely at home. So the theme of today. So over to you, Fred.
Well, thank you, Ken and John and Carolyn, and congratulations on the innovation and what you are doing to keep seniors safe. For more info, the best website is where to go, John?
That would be iGuardFire.com.
iGuardFire.com. Thank you once again for joining us.
Thank you.
You know, Mary, safety is such an important topic, really, for everyone.
Yes, I mean, we've been thinking about it with COVID and should we be getting the third vaccine? We've been thinking about our friends. Now we have these terrible tragedies happening in California and Washington. We're seeing so many people escaping the fire zones. And then, of course, the tragedy in Louisiana, Mississippi, and the hurricanes, the rain, I guess, is coming your way, right, Fred?
Right. Well, all of the flooding that's happened down south, we're going to get drenching rain, but that's probably about it on the East Coast here.
And I know here we have, like, PG&E has a preparedness center that tells you how to get prepared. We all have to-go suitcases packed with basic things in there. But this topic is so important, and really we need to be publishing those resources. Now, September is Fall Prevention Month, and so this topic in this podcast is very relevant. Some of the nonprofits that serve seniors, like the Thrive Center in Louisville, Kentucky, and the National Council on Aging, have additional resources around fall prevention and are doing fall prevention programs. So maybe our listeners could be tuning into some of the resources at the local level as well.
Before we wrap up this edition, Mary, we wanted to pay tribute and say farewell to the wonderful Ed Asner, who passed away at the end of August.
He was such an inspiration, Fred, because he was creative right up until the end, planning his next activity. He was such an advocate, and he was so fun, wasn't he?
He was. I mean, he was able to join us and be interviewed by Sherry Snelling as one of the luminaries we highlighted during the What's Next Longevity Venture Summit. Really a lot of fun, and his performances brought so much joy to all of us through the years.
Absolutely. And I know our viewers will enjoy hearing this clip.
Here are some of the clips from that interview.
Becoming an actor allows you a scope to indulge in your fantasies. We're always fond of the grumpy bosses. And then we find out that they have a heart of gold, and it's wonderful. And we love them all the more because they're not obvious.
If you hadn't pursued your fantasies to become an actor, your dreams, which are fulfilled, what career, what job would you have gone into?
Well, if I had pursued it academically, archaeology had a tickle for me. But if I probably wouldn't have endeavored to put in the hours of study, so I probably would have flunked out and resumed my busyness at my father's junkyard, which I found always exciting and rewarding. So it's either archaeologist or junkman. I'm not sure what else.